My main man, David Sakamoto, Head of Customer Success, Cisco. Let's hear it for him.
Woo! Oh, you're the best. Here, there you go. I'm thinking about you. Awesome. How's everybody doing today? Has it been great? It was great even before I got here. It was funny. I'd tell you my story. We were talking about Lyft and Uber. I dropped Uber. I don't do Uber after their shenaniganry. I'm a Lyft person. And I get in the car, and my Lyft driver says, "Dude, this is going to be an awesome day, dude." And then he continued to apologize. He's going to say dude a lot. He's like, "Sorry for saying dude." And I'm like, "Hey, dude's that's a well-established word in the English language. You use it as much as you want." And he's like, "Dude, where you going?" I go, "I'm going to Salt Lake City." He's like, "Dude, it's not going to be salty. It's going to be sweet." No joke. So it has been sweet, so thank you. Let's get to this. Customer success, scale your way. We use words every day that make total sense conceptually. However, you double click on these words, they very quickly become words that mean many different things to many different people. Words like cloud, digital, customer success, and scale. And this can be very dangerous if you're building scale strategies and plans that are not clearly understood. And you risk setting unrealistic expectations or building plans that are not in alignment with your stakeholders, the rest of the company, and ultimately could lead to failure. I believe there is a simple framework for defining and building a scale strategy. It involves looking to the future and identifying what things you need to build to support it and iterating on that. So I ask you to think about three things as I talk through this. Three things. Number one, what are your company's goals in the next 6 months, 18 months? What are the things that you need to build, expand, or maintain as you grow? And what is your success criteria look like in that future world? What are the constants? What are the assumptions that need to be maintained in that future world of growth? I know if you build a scale strategy like that, you're going to bring the highest probability of delivering for your customers, supporting the growth of your company, and hopefully even accelerating it. So let's get to it. So first thing to do, I was looking up Wikipedia. What does scale mean? So scalability is the capability of a system, network, or process to handle a growing amount of work or potential to be enlarged to accommodate growth. Makes sense. That's cool. That makes sense to me. Furthermore, it says, if the design or system fails when the quantity increase, it does not scale. Think about that. Your measure of success is if you don't fail. So I always think about this. I'm talking to my CEO or your boss or your CEO. Hey, I got these great plans. I think we're growing in the future. There's going to be awesome things. I'm going to build this over here. I'm going to hire some people over there. Your boss is going to come back and say, that's great. How do you know it's going to be successful? Great question. Great question. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be successful. We're going to do all these things, and it's going to be successful until it fails, and then it won't work. Who wants to have that conversation? I don't. Does anybody want that conversation? I do not. So let's talk through that. How would you break down your plan? How would you articulate it? What are those components? What do they look like? And how would you measure success? So let's talk about this thing we do, this customer success thing, okay? Yeah, we talk about this thing. I go, yeah, the CSMs, lifecycle management. We've got this great platform, ClientSuccess. We drive, renew, and expand. But I look at it as a much more holistic view. I define customer success as driving business through delivering customer outcomes with a positive experience. And I look at it as we're building a system of delivering value. So if you think about a customer or client as they go through touch points with your company, whether it's sales or services, and certainly the product, or other operational groups, it's our job to orchestrate that value. It's our job to to help them get through that journey. So we think we said the strategy is customer success. When I look at this, that's the first thing I think of. So when I think of that, you have to build this platform. So what I call the thing that's going to help support your building delivery and growing your business and delivering outcomes and business results for our customers is that I call it the success platform. That's the people, the process and operations and systems and tools. Additionally, when I look at this cannot be done in isolation. You need to work with your stakeholder groups and build an integrated strategy. And that's going to change what's going to be important, and who you build those connections and what process you build is going to change as your company evolves. My position is that scaling is about future proportional growth, and it can come in many different forms and fashions. Bookings and revenue. Anybody recognize that? Raise your hand if you're trying to increase bookings and revenue. Okay, I'm taking note who doesn't raise their hand. I'm calling your boss. Everybody's doing that. And of course, obviously, as a part of that, you need to increase the number of customers. Now, yeah, sure, we're going to expand. We're going to expand the footprint of existing customers. But you need to acquire new logos. Markets and verticals. As your company evolves, you may start to segment and look at different markets. Maybe you're focused on SMB and you're going to mid-market. Or a lot of companies, probably resonates with a few of you, you're focused on SMB and mid-market, and now you need to go to enterprise. How does that change your engagement process? How does it change the people you bring on? How does that change the systems and tools? Or imagine if you're looking to drive, you're going to go, you found opportunities, we see growth in certain verticals. Public sector, healthcare, financial services. Those are definitely drive differences in your engagement process and your success platform. Geographies. Maybe you're an early stage startup. You're focused on the Super Bowl cities. And now you need to grow into North America. Or you've established North America. And now you see opportunity to grow the business in Europe. That's definitely going to change the needs and requirements of your platform. Products and services. We are all adding value, features, sophistication to our solutions. And as a result, we're probably also refining our service offerings and our engagement. Maybe you're breaking them up, and as you scale out, you're starting to break out different roles, onboarding and separate from customer success. Or maybe that public sector customer, you're going to create special services, and you need to find people that have security clearance to go serve those customers, or people with financial services backgrounds. Number of employees. If you're growing, scaling, I can almost assure you that you're going to need to hire people. And there's been a lot of conversations about the importance of people, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Scaling is about trade-offs of scarcity. We have goals. We're going to invest to be able to support those goals. And I don't know if it's just me, but I have a finite amount of resources. Resources being budget, people, time. Who's constrained on resources? Does anybody in this room have an infinite amount of resources? You must be at work for the government. So let's look at the constants, right? This is really important. This is what I talked about, this future success. What are the metrics and assumptions that are going to apply in this future world? What are the things, what gets measured gets done. What are the things that you need to measure in the future world? And these are things, if you look back, these are things that are maybe new, maybe need to be improved, or maybe need to be held constant, like margin. So again, what are your constants? Now, I think everybody understands the resources. Cool. Let's talk about the investments. People, process and operations, systems and tools, the platform. Okay? Let's start to work through this. It's no mistake, people's the first thing on the list. If you think your CSMs are not getting called for other jobs, you're delusional. LinkedIn is number 4 hottest job in the market. You need to make sure that you are providing an exciting atmosphere for your team. These are the people that are delivering those outcomes to your customers. And I think culture is also not a mistake. That's the first one. I talked about that system of delivering value. It's a team sport. I would also argue many of the things what we're doing in almost all of our companies, we're building a culture. We're building a culture of customer centricity, and we're operationalizing it, and we're delivering value to customer in the business. So you need to think about, as your company, say, goes from a 25-person org to 150 to 350 to 10,000, you need to pay special focus because the needs are going to change. And you risk, the culture is going to evolve one way or the other, whether you like it or not. So you might as well focus and make sure it goes in the direction that you want. Communications. As you scale out, 25-person company, I don't need to worry too much. I walk over. Now let's think of the 350-person organization. I'm in Europe. You have time zone differences. How am I going to maintain that culture? How do I keep people in sync? What are the things I need to do there? Specialization. Right? As you go, you're going to look at specializations, your roles. As you get larger, you're going to find specialized roles to drive these outcomes for our customers. Roles, grades, and career path. Absolutely critical. Did you know one of the top 3 reasons why somebody leaves a company is lack of career path? This often gets overlooked. We are really busy. I got these things to do. I'm hiring this thing. I have a customer. I got an escalation. I got all these things going on. This often gets overlooked, but you need to be able to segment the roles. You need to have descriptions for them and help people see where they can go with their career. Hiring practices also, I think, is highly overlooked. I'll give you a story. I had to hire 100 people last year, and we hired them in 4 months. When we saw the numbers, I'm like, I got asked, yeah, we'll hit that one, no problem. Like, how are we going to do this? But one thing that we did, and I recommend that you all do this, is invest in this process. Invest in your recruiters. What we did is we walked them through the philosophy. We told them what they were going to do. We mapped out the skill sets. We talked about the culture of customer success. We sent them to conferences. And we yielded amazing results. We did not jeopardize quality. The people we brought on have been fantastic. So hiring practices. And also, these things are intertwined. Hiring practice, you should be testing culture as part of that. Training and enablement. We've talked a little bit about that. Probably first thing comes to mind, product. Yeah, of course. Process. Yes, of course. Soft skills. Are you training your CSMs with soft skills? Are you training them to negotiate, how to overcome barriers, how to ask questions? One thing that we did simulations. We built personas and said, you're Bill, the IT guy, and you just had this thing explode, and you have a meeting with your CSM, and the CSM wants to do a success plan with you, and here's what's going on. And they role played. I'll tell you what, it was really amazing to see the core human skills of listening, empathy, come through in those simulations. So think about that. So don't just focus on product, process, soft skills. Compensation and rewards. Whoops. And compensation and rewards. Oh, there we go. There we go, back. Process and operations. Lifecycle management process. This is core to what we do. Right? This is the journey that you build, the milestones, making sure that we're understanding how to get customers through in a healthy way to drive to their outcomes. Process and policies. What do you need to build? If you're a 25-person company, you need to worry too much about these things. As you scale up, what are the processes and tools like QBRs or handoffs, RACIs, to make sure that the team can work in an effective manner, in an efficient way, and deliver value to our customers? Metrics and reporting. This will evolve dramatically. As your company hits certain stages, the things that you need to measure in the reporting is going to be really critical. Operations, the internal muscles that you build. So there was discussion about churn reporting, other things like that. It's about the language, the metrics, the internal processes, the account reviews, the commits. Whatever those internal processes, think about those. What are those things that may change and evolve or the new requirement that you have? Systems and tools. Also, not a mistake, this is at the bottom of the list. People, number one, process and operations, number two. The systems and tools support those two. Oftentimes, people like to start with tools. Don't do that. It will not go well. We had one of the things mistakes that we got in Cisco is they went off and just built the system. And there was no process. And we're still unweaving that rat's nest. So work in that manner. Digital tools, success platform, the other piece. So we got this great tool, ClientSuccess. Digital tools, we have lots of fantastic sponsors here that bring really interesting tools that may show you things that you haven't even thought of. We use a tool called OneMob. And it allows, we can send videos to customers. And I look at digital tools as three things. Can I improve the customer experience? Can I build some efficiency into it? And can I build better insight? So I can see whether they opened it, I can see whether they watched it, I can see whether maybe they forwarded it to somebody else and watched it. That gives us good insight to drive appropriate actions. Knowledge-based LMS, how do you build efficiency? How do you drive these things to do internal, external, and portals, right? Over time, eventually you're gonna need to get portals and information for your employees, your customers, and your partners. So think these are the vectors of things that I ask you to think about independent of where you are on your stage, okay? So again, this is the, there we go. So again, what are your investments against that platform? What are your constants? So I look at this as, what are your measures of success? And I think they come into a few different categories. Quality, effectiveness, and reliability. Can you deliver a quality experience? Can you do it effective and reliable, independent of whether I do it, or Ari does it, or Kyle does it, or the US team does it, or the European team does it, leads it. This is the key elements of customer experience that you need to think about as you're scaling out. Efficiency. This is also going to change. Could be financial efficiency, time, resources. I think if you're early stage, you're trying to find product market fit, that's not probably an issue. If you're a publicly traded company or you're going to become going IPO, this will be an issue. I guarantee your execs are going to start to focus on things like margin. Capacity and throughput. We're scaling up. We need to be able to support more of things, more customers, more employees, and how do you think, those are the contents. So these are the drivers for your investments in scale. So let's talk about a case study. Upscale Growth Joy. My made-up company. It's our company. So I'm going to talk through early stage, mid-stage, growth, and global enterprise. And I'm just going to use this as an example. And my intent, I appreciate everybody who's in here has a different stage company. You have different customers. They have different needs. You have a different customer experience. You have different solution, different verticals. But my intention here is to have you think about it. Remember what I said? 6 to 18-month goals. What do you need to build, expand, or maintain? And what are your constants? So I hope my intent of walking through these stages is hopefully one of these will connect with you and trigger something you say, we need to do that. We need to look into that. Because we need to really think through the future growth of the company and make sure we don't get caught flat-footed. So early stage. So I'm up in the front here, by the way. So I think this is a passive-aggressive thing for me. Take that, people in the back, try to read that. But don't worry. I'm going to read through it. So early stage, key theme here, I'm acquiring customers. I'm trying to find product market fit. Or the ideal customer profile that we talked about. I'm acquiring customers, right? The key thing, we're growing revenue, we're getting market share. The key thing I want to do is I want to show the business plan works. I need to get more money, I need to get more investments. I've got probably less than 50 customers, I'm hitting the Super Bowl cities in North America, and I got 25 employees. The CSM's a jack of all trade. Probably doing onboarding, support, some customer success when they end. It's by design probably going to be pretty reactive. That's the churn. What's the churn term? The churn avoider. That's probably this stage, right? But I would say the core, what's needed here is needed for everybody in this room. Do you have a basic life cycle process? Do you have basic outcome metrics? And I think outcome, I think of two things. Outcome for customer, outcome for the company. Outcome for the customer could be done through success plans, through health scores. You probably need to work closely with engineering to make sure you got the right telemetry built in the product so you can provide the proactive insight. Outcomes for the company, renewal, maybe expand. And you probably have a basic set of tools. You need to keep track of your customers, some cases, could be spreadsheets, could be something else. Basic, you don't need a lot of process. You're all sitting in the same office, and you're just trying to figure out who your customers are. Next stage, mid-stage. Now we need to get reactive to proactive. We can't just be churn people. We need to shift and we need to mature our engagement process. We have 150 people. We're now in North America. We need to continue acquiring new customers, but now we have a customer base. That's great. We need to protect that, preserve that, grow that. And we really need to engage that engagement process. As the product gets on, we're going to still partnering with the engineering team to build more insight, give them feedback that we're seeing in the field. It's going to be really critical. You've got hundreds of customers. You're in North America. We're focused on SMB and mid-market. We hired a VP of customer success. Nice job. He or she's come in and said, hey, I think we kind of need to break this out. This jack of all trades isn't working. I need to segment the roles. I need an onboarding team. A couple of people in customer success, and we need people in support. There's SLAs there that we need to support. Those don't fit in those other roles, so segment those. Train the trainer. We need to do enablement. It's probably pretty light. Some presentations on a file share, train the trainer, sit down, get people coaching. But again, don't forget, even if you're lightweight, you can still focus on the product process and soft skills. Find mentors. Remember that lifecycle process. Now we're starting to really start to understand the data. Like Greg was talking about. Let's start to use that data, and maybe we're going to start to segment our customers. We're starting to get closer to understanding that ideal customer profile. And now we also have diagnostic metrics. Now time to value, maybe NPS, health score. I've now to find some standards that help me understand when to engage. I'm building playbooks. You should be building playbooks. What are the repeatable things you see? What are the best practices? And then you're going to start to build those operational processes. You have now different roles. Do you have a RACI? Does everybody know what to do? I don't know if everybody's heard this question. Who's in charge of the customer? I heard a great response. The process is in charge of the customer. And does everybody know who should be playing at given time? Because it's going to change as you go through that life cycle. We talked about that system of value. From a tools perspective, we're starting to build. ClientSuccess. Come on board. Let's see what we got. We now understand our process. We understand our customers. We need some help. We need a platform. And maybe you're also going to start to build some automation. Knowledge base is going to become important. Where do I keep those playbooks? Where do I share those best practices? That could be internal. Eventually, you want to use those externally, whether it's in support or whether you make a content profile. Not all customers, to the earlier presentation, some of them preferred, I don't want to talk to you. Give me the information. I'd rather do it myself. Don't assume they always want to talk with us. Systems and tools. So let's move on to the next one. Mature. We are doing great. We're going to go IPO. Isn't that awesome? Go team. We're going to party. I must be throwing a bad party. No one cares about my party. All right. So what are we doing? Now we need to continue the quality and reliability. And by the way, I didn't mention growing bookings and customers. Like, that's just constant, right? I'm not mentioning every stage. Now I'm growing internationally. The go-to-market product sophistication is inclusion. You have verticals. We have now bringing on delivery partners. Margins are really important. We need to look healthy in the public market space for IPO. Think about how that's changing the new requirements, those new constants. So now I've got hundreds, maybe thousands of customers. I'm now going to say, I'm now going to grow the business in Europe. I have verticals. I got that healthcare. I got public sector. I've got enough customers. I need an advocacy program. I need to build some infrastructure and process around that. How do we leverage the successes of our customers to help drive new business? I got 350 employees. That's a fair amount. Job roles, careers, even more important. You have formal enablement teams at this point. Internal and external. Culture. This is a dangerous time for culture. You've brought on 25 to 125. That was a big jump. Like I said, the culture is going to evolve whether you like it or not. So focus on it and make sure it goes in the right direction. Think of some of the ideas before. Think of formal and informal ways to re-message the culture, your values of the organization. What does that customer experience need to be? The people that out in the field don't need to come back to the mothership every time to ask what to do because we know, because we have a value system that drives our experience. Let's go to those journeys. Now we've segmented, we're getting a lot more data. We actually have ideal customer profile. We're segmenting in rules. We're building some automation. Remember those playbooks from before, the best practices? Now we're starting to automate those and serve those up. That becomes standard play. That's built in our lifecycle journey now. Now is also the time for those that question, when do you do this thing? You have a dedicated operations team. You have enough going on. Your business is getting complicated. You need people to focus on who's maintaining that journey, who's maintaining the best practices, who's taking the feedback from the field and driving global process. Your tools continue to evolve. You start to build some automation in place. We have partners now. Remember that portal? You don't want to be picking up the phone every time. Start serving information out. And by the way, keep feeding your customer portal because there's still those customers that don't want to talk to you and rather just go somewhere where they can easily find what they need. All right, we went IPO. Now can we have the party? Anybody interested in the party? Woo! All right, I'll just get party. I shouldn't throw parties, apparently. All right, so we got a fully robust product portfolio. We have a global footprint, and now we're driving our customer experience. We're continuing to improve, grow the business, maintaining margin worldwide. We've got 1,000 or 10,000 customers, global presence, CSM. There's a lot of stuff. This is my world. And I spend a lot of time focusing on that system, right? It's even more important. It's kind of similar to culture. The bigger that organization gets, you need to make sure you're staying connected with your stakeholders, and you have a lot more. Your product's a lot more complex. So as an executive, you're probably going to be elevating a lot more and kind of managing that system, expectations, and partnering with stakeholders. It's a fact of the matter, big company biz. You've also now got a lot of data. Maybe you're starting to implement some AI, some data science tools. You've got a mature operations team. Remember I talked about metrics and reporting, how it's going to evolve? You've got a lot of customers. You're not going to account review your way to understand what's going on in the field. You need to start leveraging ways to build data insights from your large population of customers. Again, you have a full suite. Again, we're probably putting in some automation AI. Oops. This is a little thing, I won't go through this. If you want it up in the deck, it's just the whole thing in one page as a reference. And so let's tie this out. Here's your scale strategy framework. It's about proportional future growth. What are those goals? What are your investments? What are the constants? What are your success measures? The things you need to build, expand, and preserve. Do it integrated with all of your stakeholders, sales, services, product, operational teams, and execute. And then iterate. Rather rinse, repeat. So the title of this presentation is Scale Your Way. There is no playbook to scaling. Another example. When I came on to Cisco, when I joined, I had 100 people. I had 100 people. I had 200 at the end. We did not have a customer lifecycle journey. So nobody in this room is going to have the same journey to scale. So this is not the Upscale way. It's not the Cisco way. It's your way. And I like to think about the thing that we do. It's like DNA. There's no playbook. You have to think about your customers, their needs, your solution, and the customer experience that you want to build. And that's going to define your scale strategy. And I know if you follow a systematic approach, do it in an integrated way, you will support the growth of your company and maybe even accelerate it. Thank you.